Classical Conversations presents Refining Rhetoric with CEO Robert Bortons, a podcast where faith, business, politics, and classical education meet. Join us as we use the classical tools of rhetoric to seek truth in every arena of life.
Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Refining Rhetoric. Today we're going to talk about atheist Richard Dawkins. Is he a Christian nationalist? What does that even mean? J.K. Rowling, after capitulating to the woke left, she is now taking a stand against some Scottish hate laws. What does this mean as Christians? Really, why should we continue to be involved in culture? Is it just for our benefit, or is it for the benefit of everyone? So, without further ado, let's look at these articles. Let's hear about what's going on, and Chris and I will banter back and forth to see if we can come to some truths. So let's jump in.
All right. I'd like to lead us off here, Robert. This one caught my eye. I'm glad we're getting a chance to talk about it. Famous atheist Richard Dawkins says he considers himself a cultural Christian.
Yeah, what does that even mean? Let's go see what he says. The famous British atheist Richard Dawkins, author of the book The God Delusion, said in a recent interview that he identifies as a cultural Christian and prefers Christianity to Islam, although he clarified that he does not believe a word of the Christian faith. And this is from the CatholicNewsAgency.com. We'll link to it in the show notes. He says, I am not a believer, but there is a distinction between being a believing Christian and a cultural Christian, Dawkins noted, adding, I love hymns and Christmas carols, and I sort of feel at home in the Christian ethos, and I feel that we are a Christian country in that sense. So, is Dawkins a Christian nationalist despite not believing in Christ? In my opinion, Dawkins understands that he can have the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression in a Christian culture, in a country founded on Christian principles, no matter how far that society may have drifted over time. They still have some of that history, which allows them to enjoy some of these Christian virtues that we have spread throughout the West and really throughout the world. You know, maybe in Islamic countries, you potentially wouldn't have that level of freedom. So, Chris, when you heard about this, what are some questions that you might have?
Yeah, so I have to back up a little bit with Dawkins and kind of remember all of the things he's written about Christianity and how it's just a silly bunch of fantasies and fairy tales that we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better. Morality is not a prerequisite. Religion is not a prerequisite for morality, and that we just suck up to a creator. And that's the only thing that makes us want to be good is our fear of damnation. Clearly, he's decided that it is more favorable to live in a Christian society than a Muslim one, because I think, as that article points out, they've done some public celebrations for Ramadan, but not for Easter. And he's seen more and more of these other religions taking place in precedence in society over Christian beliefs and morals. And I think, as an atheist, he should be pretty scared that some of these less tolerant religions are taking place, taking foot in the state.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny. He talks about how Islam doesn't treat women well. He does say that Christianity is not great about that either. I would say he's ignoring history, because how the pagans historically have treated women was not how Jesus Christ treated women, and that women have really raised up through the Christian virtue. And so, yeah, we have disagreements about, should they murder their babies or not? And so if you think that they should be allowed to, that, it might seem that Christianity is not that great, I suppose. But really, Christianity's lift all people into a better society. It reminds me of some of these protests going on, like Gays for Islam or Gays for Palestine, with all of the issues going on over there. And it's like, okay, you do realize that in Islamic countries, they throw homosexuals off of buildings. So you're so protected in the West because we have this Christian heritage that even if you reject it, you still have the benefits of it. And I think one of the things when they attack this idea of Christian nationalism, which I've said before, I don't necessarily agree with all the tenets, but I agree with some of the ideas behind it, is that, yes, atheists, homosexuals, people of all race, colors, and creeds benefit by living in a society based on Christian principles, based on equal weights, based on the law being blind, based on loving your neighbor. These historical Christian principles that you really only find in countries founded by Christians, that these benefit everyone, even those who reject Christ. And so
can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Because this is a common and recurring theme over the last few years. I've seen more and more this sort of idea that Christians really shouldn't be involved in politics. We should separate ourselves from politics. Politics should not be driven by Christianity. It should be driven by your objectiveness or something. This sort of idea that our ideologies should supersede our religion in terms of the way we structure our authoritative ideas. And it's funny to me that there's such a backlash against Christians thinking that there should be more Christian activity in terms of the ethics instilled into law, when you really should want that. I mean, if you look at a popular atheist theologian, if you will, Nietzsche said, "You have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, it does not exist." This sort of an apathetic breaking down and deconstruction of morality that has been taking place over the last several years as we pull as far as we can away from any sort of religious tether with government. I think it's left people going, wait, what are you doing? What's happening? Why is sexual re-education happening? And for toddlers, what are you doing? And I think a lot of people are getting really concerned, and it's pushing them towards religion. And so my hope for Dawkins is that I don't want to beat up on him. I don't want us to just be like, how dare you try to use us when it's beneficial because you're really afraid of Muslims or whatever his point in this interview was. I don't want that to be our stance. I want to say like yes, I know you don't like the idea of Christianity or any religion because it's embracing of mystery and an embracing of an unknown, and that we're not supposed to necessarily understand or get everything. But there's some solace in that acceptance, and so my hope for him is that Christ saves him through this.
Yeah, amen to that. And yeah, this is an intent of beating him up, but just that Christianity, when it is the formation of your country and the laws are based on Christian principles, that everyone does benefit, and even the most ardent atheist can see that. But funny how so many kind of left churches will say that this isn't true, and how many Christians will say it's not true. But you get Richard Dawkins telling us that it is. And he talked about the slide of morality. Scotland has a new hate crime law that it is trying to pass or has passed, and J.K. Rowling is fighting against it. It's basically, she's tweeted a few times that all transgender women are not women. I don't know. I can never keep all those things straight. The Harry Potter author, a prominent gender critical campaigner, made the comments on Monday, the day that the crime of stirring up hatred relating to age, disability, religion, sexual orientation, and transgender identity came into effect. So Scotland has obviously fallen significantly from its Christian heritage, and now has new hate crime laws where if you say things like a number of transgender women were men could be considered hate speech and you could be arrested. The British Prime Minister said that that would not be criminalized. Things like common sense about biological sex is not covered under this hate crime. But the police, I guess, said they're not planning on arresting her. But there are individuals in the Scottish government that says that it's up to the police and that she could be arrested in the future. And so apparently Scotland has been on the forefront of extending rights to the transgender community, but a previous attempt to make it easier to change a legal gender was blocked by London over concerns it would hurt existing equality legislation. And this is from Reuters, so you can definitely go check this out in the show notes. Now, I did not realize this, but J.K. Rowling, when asked if she's a Christian, she says that she is a Christian, which is kind of interesting because the Harry Potter books have been kind of criticized as she, post writing them, has revealed some of the sexual orientation of some of the characters. This was then celebrated by the left for her inclusivity, but now she's kind of reaping the fruit of the worldview that I think is the antithesis of our Christian belief of sexual immorality, and seeing where the slippery slope leads us. And now she's being threatened to be arrested. So just really interesting to see how, when Christians try to get applause from the world, not only do they hurt their own, testimony, the testimony of Jesus Christ, but they can never please it, right? Because the world rejects everything about God. So,
I mean, this is something we've seen over and over and over again with cancel culture. Is someone tries to appease the mob, whoever it is that's coming after them this most recent time, and any sort of concession that's offered is always followed up with another demand. And so I think J.K. Rowling played this game with Harry Potter. First, they said, "Hey, why don't you have enough minority inclusion inside of this book?" And she said, "Well, actually, Hermione was black." And then, "Why weren't there any people of other sexual orientations?" "Well, actually, Dumbledore is gay." And she kept playing this game until finally it struck on something that actually hurt her in her soul. And they said, "Well, actually, men should be allowed to compete in women's sports." And she said, "No," because she's a classical feminist. And she believes strongly that that's not fair to women. And so finally, she's been pushed up against the wall, and her whole fan base has basically riled up against her. I remember recently the game Hogwarts Legacy, which is made by another studio, and a lot of the fans are saying, boycott this game. We don't want to do anything or have any association with anything Rowling's has created because she's turned her back on us. She has said that we shouldn't exist. And there it is. Once again, another person that has tried their absolute hardest to pander to a community that's bent on being angry about something has fallen victim to it.
Yeah, absolutely. There has been new reports in the U.S. that the support for homosexual marriage, as they call it, is actually going down now. So it's just kind of interesting to see how, as these worldviews progress, people who might not view the world the same way that you and I view the world eventually come to the realization that their worldview leads to very disturbing endings, and they eventually start pushing back. It's just at a much farther place than we do as Christians, and why it's important for us to know the word, know God's truth, be able to speak that in love, but not compromise it, and to make sure that we are staying involved with politics and, writing our congressmen, visiting them when we have like a homeschool Capitol Day, or when you're in the Capitol, call up your local, representatives and say you want to stop in and talk to them, because at least here in the United States, we are a constitutional republic. There's obviously a lot of corruption, but we still have the opportunity to vote every 2 to 4 years. Congress has like a 14% approval rating, might be 8% now, very low, but 90% of people get reelected. So they obviously have, no incentive to fix things as long as we're not holding them accountable. So really interesting. Richard Dawkins, cultural Christian, Christian nationalist, or atheist? And J.K. Rowling, is she going to realize that capitulating to the woke left, should have done it earlier? She wouldn't have found herself in this position now, but now she's fighting. Tip of the hat to both of them. Please be praying for Richard Dawkins. Please be praying for J.K. Rowling, that she really does believe in Christ, and that she will align her worldview completely with what we see in the Bible. Check us out on YouTube Music. Subscribe there. And be sure to check us out on YouTube and all of your favorite podcast platforms. Until next time, God bless. Hey, everybody. I want to interrupt this episode to tell you about the Museum of the Bible. If you're planning a trip to Washington, D.C., want to see original Bibles owned by some of history's greatest individuals, you can go to the Museum of the Bible. We have a 50% discount for our listeners, for our Classical Conversations members, by going to the resource document in CC Connected Learning Center. And of course, we have a link below as well for you. And there are live, interactive, and virtual education programs for students and foundations through Challenge. And we'd love for you to go on a scavenger hunt, finding items from the timeline, learning about the artifacts and educational exhibits that coincide with the Classical Conversations timeline song. So go to museumofthebible.org for their website, go to the show notes, or go to CC Connected Learning Center for discounts today. Now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to Classical Crypto with Will. It's such a pleasure to be with you today. All right, we're in April. We're closely approaching April 19th, which is supposed to be the Bitcoin halving. I think technologically it could happen a day before or a day afterwards. So it might happen on the 18th or the 20th, but that's 10, 11 days out from now. So we're approaching that now. Bitcoin, every block that's mined right now is issuing, I think it is, 6.25 Bitcoins. When that's cut in half, it's going to issue 3.125 Bitcoins into this current economy. Yes, BlackRock, some of the ETF buyers, that buying rate has slowed down. They're not amassing the vast amount of Bitcoin they were right when it came out, but they're still buying large quantities, okay? So that halving that's going to affect the price at the end of the day. And really that's why a lot of those ETFs got involved in it in the first place. But breaking news, China today shocks the world because China has banned crypto and it's banned Bitcoin more than any other country on the face of the planet. But they came through today and two of their they might be some of their largest funds, but at least the subsidiaries of those funds, one that manages $280 billion and the other which manages $240 billion, they have applied for a Bitcoin ETF in China. Now, this is huge because it gives us a glimpse into maybe some of the regulatory frameworks of China as they start going through and they go through their approval process. It'll be interesting for us to kind of view, what is there a changing climate in China? Because they used to crack down so hard on Bitcoin and anything that was decentralized or freedom, anything that could be used outside of the Chinese Communist Party. But is that sentiment changing? Are there a lot of business owners? I'm sure the common people want Bitcoin. But are some of those large institutions going, man, we don't want to be left out of this new quantum Web3 gold rush? I think that's really what's happening. And China might have a little FOMO right now, fear of missing out of this drive that the US and Europe and a lot of the smaller countries are fully taking advantage of. So that could be part of it. It'll be very interesting to see if that develops because China could be a huge buyer. And man, that's going to affect the price of Bitcoin if they really throw their full weight behind it as well. So we'll see what happens. Wanted to give you an update on that, which is fantastic. And then again, just review that halving. It's coming up April 19th. Today is the 8th, so 11 days out. It's going to be really exciting. Hopefully we got a lot of those bad actors out of the way. Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, Kuku. There might be some exchanges that kind of go down in the midst of all the craziness that's happening. But as always, take none of this as financial advice, but please continue your research, gain knowledge about crypto because it's coming fast. Everything else is smart. We have smartphones, smart cars, technologies everywhere. But with money, it's just happening now. So make sure you're in the know. Until next time, this has been Classical Crypto with Will. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortons. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation. and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.